Alrighty, for the clap. Excellent. Shut up.
He's had to clap so many times it might as well be applause.
It's true. It's true. Does everybody have their lists?
Yeah.
Everybody have their lists. I should probably get my list.
Do you have a list?
Blood movies. I do. I do have a list.
I was more making fun of him. He has 5 movies with 10 minutes.
No, it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
I either over or under thought this. I'm not sure which.
Oh, I definitely underthought this. I have a list, but it's like, I had how much time to put this up? Yeah.
The problem is he said he wanted personal connection, so that made me think a lot harder about him.
I just realized.
Yeah, all this is being recorded and we haven't done it properly.
No. Got 2 big black balls and a long thin microphone right between them. We're professionals, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to A Defense of the Awkward Moment. Welcome to 2019. With me always, as always, is Michael Zupon, and we are joined today by the excellent Aaron Reeser. We're going to talk about movies. This was a conversation that I was having with myself late at night when I couldn't fall asleep, and the further down that particular rabbit hole I got, the more I realized that I wanted to have this conversation with people like you and with people like you. And so here we are. The question is, what movies do you find personally deeply significant? And what movies do you really helped make something real for you? What movies do you think really kind of moved the world on? And just to kind of set the tone, some examples here. Personal significance needs no explanation, so I won't bother going into that. But in terms of movies that made things real, the first entry that I have on my list is Jason and the Argonauts. Ray Harryhausen, amazing special effects guy. The stop motion claymation skeletons. That was the first movie that I ever watched when I was wee young. And that was kind of the granddaddy of kind of special effects movies for the kid that was reading all of the swords and sorcery fantasy books and playing Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. So in terms of movies that kind of made a thing real, that definitely sticks out in my head. Movies that moved the world on. Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
When that trailer came out, this was pre-Iron Man now. When that trailer came out and they showed the footage of him swinging through the city and it didn't look horrible, I lost my mind. Because it just
hasn't quite found it yet.
It's just true. We saw the trailer for the first time in the theater, and it just looked absolutely incredible.
Well, that was the first movie I ever remember. Like, at the end of a movie, everybody clapping. Like, they really enjoy that movie, superhero-wise. Yeah, it was definitely one that was interesting in that regard.
God, you guys are young.
Young?
We're just talking about things.
I had those same feelings with Superman, and that was like, what, 1979?
That's fair.
The original Chris Reeves, he looked like he was flying. He did a fantastic job.
That was back when Margot Kidder was still an attractive
Exactly.
proposition. In terms of movies, deep significance, Braveheart was absolutely the first movie that me and all of the other man children that I hung around with at the time would unabashedly sit around in a circle and get sniffly over. There were others, of course, but that was kind of the first movie that was accepted from a manly standpoint that it's okay to cry when William Wallace gets gutted like a fish.
Spoilers.
Again.
Spoilers!
If you haven't seen it by now, well.
Master Zupon.
Again, young. Where were you people when E.T. came out?
Oh.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't quite a man yet, but that was the first movie I remember just freaking bawling out at.
Sacrilege. I've only ever seen that movie once, and I was never interested in going back and watching it again. I'm sorry.
Well, like I said, you're young. I mean, E.T. was on my list anyway, just because that was the first movie I recall, unlike Clash of the Titans with Harryhausen again, where the special effects looked real. It looked like any of this stuff could happen.
Ouch.
Yeah, you know, when the bicycles took off, it's like, okay, that actually just happened. They actually just flew 4 bicycles into the sky. You know, one of them with a, potato inside of a milk carton. But still, it was a very realistic looking potato.
And they immortalized the whole thing in the most legendary Atari game ever.
Yeah, well,
That buried itself.
That's true.
we don't talk about the spin-offs, but
That's a completely different podcast. If you don't know what went on with the ET game for the Atari 2600,
Google it.
Oh yeah, that's deep Google bait right there. People.
that was the first time that I thought, you could put with enough skill, you could put anything on screen and make it look incredible. And then, of course, it's the first time I ever heard the words penis breath on television or in the movie theater. So,
I have to tell you, the cinematic visual of Elliot on the bike passing in front of the moon, what turned into the Amblin Entertainment logo.
Yeah.
Years and years and years passed by, obviously, after that movie. But was it Ready Player One? It might have been Ready Player One. That when we were in the theater, we were going to watch it, and the Amblin logo came up on screen. This tiny little part inside of me that's still 5 years. It's a big part inside of me that's still 5 years old. Oh, it's so good to see the Amblin logo in front of a movie again.
Well, it was a hallmark. It was a movie house that provided so many great things that all of a sudden see it come back when you're an adult. It's like, my inner child.
Yeah.
no DreamWorks this time. No DreamWorks this time. Amblin.
Nobody's fishing for anything.
Yes.
Not a goddamn thing. Aaron.
Well, see, and I don't really think I understood a lot of what you were looking for, so I will just go with movies that I found that have always stuck with me, either through my childhood, something that I always found personal significance. And since we're kind of going with the older ones, I'll have a little bit more fun. The Last Starfighter.
Oh yeah. My gosh!
I mean, that was the first time I saw CGI in a film of starfighters just ripping through and blowing stuff up, and the Death Blossom.
Oh, the Death Blossom!
Just such a great setup, because it was all about a kid who just really wanted to get out of his life. He wanted to get into video games, and he did. And he ends up finding this world. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, as a kid, that's just like, you mean if I get really good at video games, I could go to space.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually absolutely true, I'm sure, because all these things.
Absolutely.
But that was one movie that still to this day I love watching. I hope that there's always those talks of the Last Starfighter remake, and I'm like, be very careful.
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Don't mess this up.
Yeah.
Part of that movie's charm was the CG.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it's very, very 80s. But yeah, there's a whole lot of that movie's charm that is the CG. Zur and the Kodan Armada.
Mm-hmm.
So good. So good. If we're talking about movies that significant movies that stuck with you about people going into space, I have to mention The Explorers.
Oh, yes. The trash can kids flying around, yeah.
I don't know how many mornings. They used to show the thing every damn Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And at like 5 o'clock in the morning, because there was nothing else to put on TV. And I would get up all the time and watch this movie. Something about that movie. River Phoenix, Ethan Hawke. Completely and totally, hilariously 80s Saturday morning special bonkers plot.
That's a lot of talent for a movie I've never heard of.
Oh.
You haven't even heard of it?
Wow.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that was the movie where the kid finds this little globe that he can move around.
He has some kind of a weird dream.
Yeah, and he has a little globe that he can send flying around, and it goes right through objects. And he ends up building basically a spaceship that he puts inside of this globe that he can go into space with his friends with. And it ends up being this whole big thing. But yeah,
This is a movie, not a television show.
totally a movie.
Yeah, it was the aliens are talking to River Phoenix's River Phoenix's character, and this is young
Sure.
River Phoenix at the time, and somehow the dreams that they're sending to this kid, they impart to him the schematics, the code to at what is now an ancient computer system. Run this sequence of code on your computer, and he runs the code, and this blue translucent sphere pops into existence, and he realizes that the thing is impenetrable, and that if he programs it using what had to have been like logo turtle code at the time, he can make it, up, down, left, and right, XYZ axis, all that stuff, and that he can make it larger or smaller depending on how he alters the algorithm for it. And we'll have to find time. It's probably really, really bad.
Oh, it will not hold up to time very well at all.
Sure. Nostalgia.
Nostalgia.
Yeah, God, when I think about it now as an adult, huge.
The Explorers. Okay.
Yeah, the Explorers, absolutely huge. In the realm of movies that made a thing real for me, and I know I talked about having 45 movies on my list. These are the movies that we're going to go through this really, really quickly. We talked about Jason and the Argonauts, Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl.
The only.
Oh, yeah.
The skeletons in that
were
bonkers good.
Gents, take a walk.
Oh, freaking Jeffrey Rush.
That scene right there was just awesome. All of a sudden, hell, even when he's moving his hand through the moonlight to kind of accost her,
Scare
almost.
her.
Yeah.
And you just see the hand, and it's like, holy. But the way they played into it in the end of the movie, where they've got the fight going on, and all of a sudden, even the bomb in the chest at the very end, where the cinematic, they took the characters and even kind of put that into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in completely and totally moved that on for me again with the whole Dungeons and Dragons and Swords and Sorcery stuff. Underworld, the Underworld movies did werewolves better than the first one did werewolves better than anything I think maybe I've ever seen. All due respect to the Michael Jackson Thriller short.
I thought he was a cat beast anyway. He wasn't a werewolf.
Was it not a werewolf?
He was a
thing?
cat.
Was it a cat?
Yeah, he
big
was
cat
more of a
thing?
cat beast.
Yeah. No, Underworld
The
did werewolves.
whiskers were
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, the cat eyes. So at the very end. So.
Reign of Fire
Oh, yeah.
for dragons.
Just even for how bad that movie was, and the concept of how the dragons ate Ash.
Yeah, it doesn't definitely not close scrutiny, but the beast.
Oh,
the
yeah.
beast itself. Again, Dungeons and Dragons. Oh baby.
Okay, you talk about dragons though? Dragonheart.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery, the way that you always hear the story about how there was one guy who had like all the Polaroids of every facial expression that Sean Connery had, and that's what they used to kind of help digitally map because they didn't have the dots at the time where for motion capture. But that was always the one that dragons for me. Reign of Fire was good, but Dragonheart, where you get Sean Connery flying around and Bowen, what are you doing? Yeah.
That part where he pops up out of the water and there's the sheep there and he goes, "Oh, hello." Absolutely fantastic. And of course, I would be completely and totally remiss in terms of making things real for me if I didn't mention Jurassic Park.
I was on my list too.
Jurassic Park, this is another really great thing that I encourage you guys to go out and Google if you don't know this story. Not only is Jurassic Park really, really fantastic for me, and I suspect all of us, in terms of bringing dinosaurs to the silver screen and making them more real, the behind-the-scenes journey that was taken to make Jurassic Park a reality, both in terms of animatronics and CG, all of the cool crap that you guys see in your movies today in terms of photorealistic CG critterdom, you can lay at the feet of the people at ILM.
Well, they also didn't walk away from physical effects either. I mean, the fact that the T-Rex was this giant, monstrous thing that they used to attack stuff, and even the stories you hear about on the set when it was shorting out because of all the rain, it would randomly move on its own and scare the crap out of the people on the set.
There's a story that I read online that the part in the movie in the dark when Lex and Tim are in the Jeep and the thing drops its head down. And
it
punches through the glass.
To get through the glass.
That it wasn't supposed to get through the glass, and the reactions of the kids were genuine.
Yeah.
Good bully for them for sticking it out for the rest of that movie because I'd be like, I'm out.
How much you paying me? Not enough.
Yeah, I'm done. That's still 20 years later they did the re-release. They digitally restored and blah blah blah, and they re-released it into the theater. And the Raptors unfortunately didn't hold up very well. The scene in the kitchen in particular.
Yeah.
But in the dark, when in the rain, when the T-Rex first popped out, there's still that part of your brain that I need to be someplace else right now.
Where's he going? Well, when you gotta go, you gotta go.
fantastic movie. So when we talk about things that moved it on or that made things more real, that was certainly, those were my big ones in terms of critterdom. Michael?
Oh, so do we want to talk about my moving things on, or because I don't know if I actually have one of those.
Pick one, bruv.
All right.
Just go for the next.
All right, here's an entirely new category. But movies that made you change your outlook on media in general.
Okay.
Oh.
So for mine, growing up, one of my favorite books was Roald Dahl's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Okay.
So even though this movie came out before I was born, the Gene Wilder version made me realize that sometimes you have to make compromises when you're changing formats. Because the book, Charlie, well, looking back on it now, Charlie is a bland vanilla slate that you're supposed to write yourself onto. But in the movie, he gets into trouble that he would never get into in the book, mostly because Grandpa Joe, the slack ass. But, the fuzzy lifting drinks never happens. The you get nothing, good day, sir, never happens. None of that stuff happens, which is almost needed for the dramatic tension of the movie.
Right.
But when I was growing up and saw this thing on video for the first time, I'm like, this isn't how it works.
Oh, well.
Also, same vein, never-ending story.
Yeah.
Loved the book. Loved most of the movie. And then they started swerving on me, and I'm like, this isn't right. This isn't good.
If we're talking about now movies that swerved wildly from the books,
Source materials, yes.
my holy grail of movies that swerved so hard from the book is actually a relatively new arrival, and it's Ender's Game.
Oh. Yeah, no, I mean, completely lost some of the psychological impact, some of the things that they just skipped over entirely. Yeah, I mean, that was a treasured book to me. I got to meet Ender Scott Card in person and was absolutely wanted to see it. Yes, and this is way before all of the shit went sideways with him. But he wrote so many amazing things, and then all of a sudden he was always, I always want to get Ender's Game written, put in a movie. I want to see this look good, but I want to make sure that it's done right. And I don't really know if he kind of sold out a little bit to get that to happen, or if he had to take, kind of like you said, some of those liberties to allow it to actually happen.
I thought you were going to say Starship Troopers, and it's like, that was...
Oh, no, see...
That didn't even try.
God, if we
MTV Movies decided, hey, you know what, we're going to make some Marines.
Yeah, we're gonna put Doogie Howser in a film, damn it.
I didn't talk about guilty pleasures as a movie category, but if I would have talked about guilty pleasures as a movie category,
well, let's open it up. I mean,
would you like to know more?
Late.
Oh my God. Oh yeah, Starship Troopers.
As far as things that don't match the source material,
Mr. Reeser
wins.
See, I don't have as many amazing, categories. And like you talk about movies that kind of push things forward. You always have to mention The Matrix, just because cinematography-wise, that pushed so many boundaries. And I'm almost at this point a little sad that they did, because I swear to God, if DC can't stop doing slow motion fights, I'm going to lose it on them. But in The Matrix, bullet time being the
thing,
the whole camera sweep to be able to pull some amazing effects off, the CGI that they did, it was always this really cool, mind-blowing, hey, let's set up a really cool concept and run with it. We're not going to mention the other two just because why would we? But the first one definitely pushed a lot of boundaries and had a lot of fun.
If only they had a script.
You mentioned DC. For anybody that's wondering whether or not I have like poltergeists in my house,
Just
I
one.
I have cats.
Just one.
One cat in particular. You mentioned DC and slow motion shots. One of the things I wholeheartedly have to agree with you about the Matrix piece on is a lot of what made bullet time look really, really good was how practical they still kept it, rather than falling back on CG for
an
so
array
much
of
stuff.
40 to 45 cameras timed to specifically go in sequence. Yeah, it was a practical setup and it worked well.
Yeah, I agree completely and totally. Completely and totally.
And then they realized we could do the same thing in a computer.
Yeah.
Indeed.
It became the auto tune of movies.
If we're going back to deeply impactful movies, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yes.
For me.
Oh, back to Sean Connery.
Well, yeah, I mean, the penitent man. Yeah.
I was I don't see very well, which won't be a shocker to either of you two, but for some of the people that are watching. And when I first got my driver's license, I was 18 years old and immediately got into several accidents. Not necessarily because I couldn't see, but because I was dumb, male, and 18.
I'm just imagining.
Those are synonyms, you know. You're being
fair.
redundant.
I'm just thinking the tank scene is coming back into reality here, where they were trying to figure out how to scrape across the walls. But sure, yeah.
And I ended up giving my driver's license back to the state for, gosh, years and years. And even to the point that I moved away from the city, from Overland Park. And when I moved back and got a job here, I still didn't, and this would have been 12 years later, I think, I still didn't bother getting a driver's license. Just rode everywhere on my bike. And there may or may not have been an incident with a bicycle helmet, which we can cover in a different entry.
We'll know when it clicks.
Okay.
But that led to me deciding, and my wife deciding, okay, it's time to stop riding your bike around. You're going to get yourself killed. You need to get a motorized form of transport. And my brain immediately went to, oh, well, I'll get a motorcycle license. Because the nightmare...
So much safer.
Yeah, that, we're going to make you safer. Motorcycle.
The nightmare scenario for me is always T-boning a minivan full of,
Nuns.
kids and a soccer mom.
Penguin.
No, I'd respectfully forget the nuns. It's always been, toddlers and a soccer mom someplace. I would just immediately, if I didn't die on impact, I would just immediately will myself unto death. And that was always the thing. And it's okay. Well, if you hit the minivan with the children and the soccer mom inside of it, and you're on a motorcycle, only you get DRT'd. And that was completely and totally okay with me. And my wife, I don't know if it's because she was just patient and knew what was going to happen. I have to assume that's what was going on. But she waited for me to go and to learn how to ride a motorcycle and for me to get my endorsement, which I did. And then I had completely unprompted kind of a moment of clarity, harkening back to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where, okay, you've done it.
I wondered how you were going to land this fish.
You've done it. You've gone. You've gotten your motorcycle license. You've proved that you've done it. Now you have to walk away from it. You have to leave it behind, because it will end horribly for you if you do. And
So the motorcycle was your grail.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
The business of walking away from that I love that. The movie's amazing for any number of other reasons, but deeply, deeply significant to me because of that. So I just rabbited on for about 5 minutes. Aaron?
Yeah, so we were talking about a few different ones. Personal movies, and I don't know what it is about Transformers the movie. I know that not everybody will.
We have to be talking about the one in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, the cartoon. I'm like,
That's why I said Transformers the movie, not Transformers the Last Night, any of that. Transformers the movie, like 1980s,
Okay.
animated with Orson Welles, and they had all...
you got the power.
Oh, yeah.
You got the touch.
Yes. Still Stan
So we're talking about
Bush.
movies with wonderful soundtracks.
Still plays, yeah. But, I mean, it was, at the time, it was that, to me, that had, oh, look, we've got the TV show that we watch as kids, transforming onto the main scene, not taking a pun into there at all, but
Sure.
transforming into the main movie to launch off. And, I mean, it didn't really go a whole lot after that, but it was...
Because they killed their best character and replaced him with a sports car.
Look, Hot Rod turned into something that we're not really sure.
And promptly disappeared from the lore forever. I mean,
Yeah.
him and...
Ultra Magnus.
Yeah, Ultra Magnus and half those guys
But
did
some of the
make it.
voice actors that they had in that
Well, yeah,
movie were
fantastic.
just a great cast.
Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
Orson
anyone.
Welles. I mean, let's just,
Well,
let's put those two on screen and let them read the newspaper. We'll go watch it.
More stuff for you to Google, or in this case YouTube. If you want something that's funny, look up the behind the scenes tapes and interviews of Orson Welles doing his voice acting for Unicron in that movie. The arguments that he gets into between takes with the script writers are legendary, and it's freaking Orson Welles, so everybody's just like, oh.
Can we not upset him?
Yeah, that's
Just imagine if Alec Guinness, had recordings of him trying to talk to Lucas about, what is this shit dialogue you've got me reading?
I mean,
This is cool.
the plot didn't really go anywhere, but it was kind of fun to watch. I mean, and it still kind of lives on today, even from how they handled, even the Transformers The Last Night movie. All of a sudden they had
Grimlock?
last one. Well, they've always had the Dinobots have still come around, which I still love the characters. And
Well, yeah, the Dinobots were the best thing about the Transformers, and
Grimlock, Sludge, Slag, and I don't remember the name.
there was the other three, Swoop,
yeah.
and the other one.
Tell Swoop good part. Tell Swoop good part. Yeah.
I don't even remember what the fifth one was.
There was the Tyrannosaurus, the Triceratops, the Stegosaurus, the Brontosaurus, and the Pterodactyl.
Who was the Stegosaurus? Spike?
Spike, yeah. I think it was Spike.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, that was just one of those movies that as a kid growing up I would watch over and over. It wasn't until they did the 20th anniversary and re-released the thing in Blu-ray that I finally understood what the goddamn wheelie character was saying all the time. Because the audio was so bad in the DVD version that finally you hear and understand what this little guy has been saying since the 80s.
And the hoverboard,
Oh yeah, the hoverboard that he just randomly ran onto a rock.
Yeah, without a helmet,
Without a helmet,
that was not smart.
Yeah. Oh, but still to this day, the giant robot holding, wow, that's a whopper, holding up a tiny little fish.
Yeah.
So anyways.
I don't think we've heard from you recently.
Not on this take.
What's next on your list?
All right, so segueing off of the movies with great soundtracks, The Commitments. Have you ever heard this movie?
No.
This is a movie. The reason that it's a personal movie for me is that it's a movie that my mom and I, it's on both of our favorite lists. So, this is a movie I could sit down with her and watch anytime.
Hi, Cynthia.
Hey, Mom. 1991, Alan Parker directed. It's based off of a series of books. The Commitments is about a poor kid in Northern Ireland who all he wants to do is grow up, make music. So he gets together a bunch of his friends, and they form the greatest soul blues band in Northern Ireland. Fantastic soundtrack. Aretha, Wilson Pickett, James Brown, on down the line. And these guys, for being a bunch of very, very white Irish people, sing the shit out of it. If you like the blues, if you like soul, you need to watch The Commitments. Because it's funny as hell, and B, the soundtrack is off the charts.
Okay.
So the category would be movies with great soundtracks. You kind of like music. Do you have anything from this?
It's the next. It's actually the next thing that's on my list.
So yeah, perfect segue.
That was a movie called The Medicine Man.
Oh, wow.
Again, Sean Connery?
Again, Sean Connery. There's a theme here.
Look. If that man asked me to do naughty things, I would do it at a heart.
I mean, yeah, he was the world's sexiest man at 72, but I mean...
we were talking about the 10-year challenge. There's a graphic floating around out there of a picture of him in 1989 on the set of The Last Crusade, and a picture of him in 2009 or something like that. And he looks better in 2009 than he does 1989.
I'm sorry, still to this day, Entrapment, where it's Sean Connery running around with Catherine Zeta-Jones. The
sexiest couple on screen that year.
Exactly. I mean, you don't see something like that until, Mr. and Mrs. Smith happens with Angelina Jolie and
So The Medicine Man.
Yeah.
Continue.
These guys have had to put up with my over-the-top loving of movie soundtracks and movie scores. Movie scores more than soundtracks, definitely. I like movie scores a lot. The Medicine Man was what started me on all of that. Jerry Goldsmith. If you like movie scores, The Medicine Man is an insanely good movie score, and that led me on from Jerry Goldsmith to James Horner to now your big boys are Hans Zimmer and Harry Gregson Williams and Steve Jablonsky and James Newton Howard and yes,
You're missing one.
Yeah, you're missing a big one.
Yeah.
oh, John Williams, of course. But
No.
That's the person who should have started you on this.
Iron Man.
Oh, Ramin Djawadi.
Yeah,
Thank
Ramin
you.
Djawadi.
Ramin Djawadi.
We're
one
just
that-
waiting.
yeah,
It's like, let's
Well,
give him
I
a
have
hint.
a shared love of him just because.
Let's give him a
what
hint.
he-
He's still young.
Okay, but how did it take you until Medicine Man until you discovered the power of soundtracks? Again, John Williams, and then the other one that John Williams did, and the other one that John Williams did, and then the other one that John Williams did, and then
So I'm going to be slightly blasphemous here.
Jaws, Superman, Star Wars, E.T., Close Encounters.
I put to you
Again, young.
with the blasphemy thing here. It's coming, so brace yourselves. I put to you that John Williams is an amazing thematic composer, but his soundtracks are not end to end repeatably listenable without becoming Stairway to Heaven. Star Wars, there's no argument whatsoever about how amazing Star Wars is. The Empire March. There's no argument there at all. The theme to Jaws is immediately recognizable. All of that stuff is amazing. But in terms of things that you go back to and listen to on a regular basis, and I'm going to dip into something a little bit more common here and tap Hans Zimmer, you don't listen to the Star Wars soundtrack like you listen to The Martian.
Yeah.
And again,
Clap like a stupid
nothing
happy
but reverence for John Williams. He's absolutely the godfather of amazing movie scores. But in terms of really, really turning me on to movie scores that I actively wanted to listen to and actively wanted to seek out, and that are sitting now in my library, don't get me wrong, I have a CD of the classical movements. CDs are like tiny little records for you young people.
Records are big things that they used to put music on. They're made out of oil. They call them vinyl now, but yeah.
Yeah, they're starting to come back into style, you damn hipsters. But no, I mean, John Williams is amazing, but there's a difference between the listenability of, is that a word?
Sure. Is now.
Of your Star Wars soundtracks versus Star Trek was James Horner, and a lot of this was because I'm a massive Star Trek fan. Prime Universe. James Horner's soundtrack work was incredible when he handed it off to Jerry Goldsmith for the Next Generation movies. Just absolutely cemented it. So yeah, you talk about music and movies. The Medicine Man is where all of that began for me.
Music for you.
Damn, that's
Beyond the Transformers. I mean, we've talked
If you
about
say it, I'm going to slap you. Just so you know,
If you
I will
what?
do it on film. If you say if you say it, I'm going to slap you.
No, I don't know. There really aren't there are some movies that have film scores that I always love, but there are very few that always touch me all the time in that special place. But like Iron Man, it still has probably some of the most recognizable chords, sounds that they have in a movie. What was it? Driving with a Top Down.
Yeah.
It's still one of those songs that you just love listening to because it's got a good beat to it. I mean, anytime you get into some of the Marvel stuff, Avengers, whenever they start bringing the upswell for how they bring the heroes in right before they're going to go into the battle. I mean, those are the brass horns, that section that always just causes you to have chills.
And the Immigrant Song. So.
Well, Trent Reznor, no. But as far as it goes,
Wait a minute.
no. Look, they overdid it in that goddamn film. We're just leaving it alone for a minute.
It's true.
But
Okay.
Iron Man, I mean, that had personally, I thought the music was great, but also growing up as a kid, I was a huge Iron Man fan. I wanted to be Tony Stark. Everybody wanted to be Tony Stark.
Tony Stank.
Tony Stark.
He's
That's
this
not
guy.
going away. It's not going
It's not
away.
going away anyway.
But I mean, Iron Man was one of those movies that I finally got to see one of my childhood heroes come to life in such an awesome fashion, to such an extent that Robert Downey Jr. continues to this day to be mistaken for Tony Stark when people are doing interviews with him. They'll be like, "Well, Tony," and he's like, "No, I get it all the time." And I mean, he just really embodies that character, and he did such a great job in that film that I didn't find out about it until later that they really didn't have a script for that film. Almost the entire budget was used on CG effects, and they didn't have people writing the whole script. So it was almost ad-libbed through almost most of the movie.
Well, he was always a fantastic actor. He just let his demons catch him for a little while. He was a 1-8 ball away from being, River Phoenix.
yeah.
If we're going to talk about Iron Man, more Googleable stuff for you in terms of Robert Downey Jr. being
You didn't know there was going to be homework, did you?
Yeah. In terms of Robert Downey Jr. being mistaken for Tony Stark, there's an amazing video, again, on YouTube of Robert Downey Jr. Going in character as Tony Stark to deliver an Iron Man-themed prosthetic arm to, like, an
I've seen this.
8-year-old. It's solid freaking gold. Solid gold with some hot rod red on the arm.
yeah.
But go look it up. It's Robert Downey Jr. at his best doing a really, really great thing.
So back to my other theme. Films that you would watch over and over again with your parents.
Oh, okay.
I mean, mine was The Commitments, because this is like a dual one, because A, it's great music, and B, a movie that, because it would be The Commitments with my mom, it would be True Grit with my dad. Do you have, I guess it could be a spouse or...
Films that I would watch over and over again with my... films that I watched over and over and over again with my siblings, there are two of them that come to mind. The first of which was a movie called Twice Upon a Time that George Lucas did as an experiment to see how he could combine hand-drawn animation with practical film. And he did this, I believe, after American Graffiti, but before Star Wars, but don't quote me on that. Twice Upon a Time is a really, really weird movie. But the animation techniques that were used in it were groundbreaking, and it has really, really just slightly off of North humor. And it's very, very kooky, and as kids, we loved it. We just watched the crap out of it.
George Lucas has humor?
Yeah,
Who wrote that script?
We'll find time. We'll find time sometime, and we'll watch at least the first 20 or 30 minutes. There are some legitimate laugh out loud genius humor moments in that movie. The other really big one that we watched over and over as siblings that we've now started watching with my nieces and nephews is an animated movie called Animal Olympics.
Like the Laugh Olympics?
No. The cool thing about Animal Olympics is it was produced and directed by a guy named Steven Lisberger. And if nobody out there knows who that is, Steven Lisberger was a cutting-edge producer animator that was trying to get Walt Disney to give him budget for a different movie that he wanted to make using cutting-edge animation. And Walt Disney said, "It can't be done, go away." And he said, "If I can prove it to you with a short of the animation style, will you give me my budget?" And Walt Disney said, "Yeah, but you're on your own as far as making that short film." He made Animal Olympics as a movie entirely, which was a good, perfectly successful animated movie. It's really great if you've got young kids. Go find a copy of it online somewhere and let them watch it. It's funny. It's a good flick. Great soundtrack. But the whole point of that movie was 15 or 20 seconds worth of Lisberger Studios logo at the beginning of it that had a very, very glowy man taking two objects in his hands that looked an awful lot like discs, throwing them out, having him swirl around and come back, and having him catch them like this before the screen dissolved into light and you got the Lisberger Studios logo. Walt Disney went, "Holy crap, that looked amazing." And he said, "Excellent, can I please make Tron?"
Aha!
There's your
Now I know who Lisberger is.
Yeah.
there's your callback there. But yeah, I had no idea about any of that when I was younger. We just really liked the cartoon. But
I thought Tron was going to come up when you guys were talking about films that moved technology forward.
I really
That one's on my list. Yeah, I mean,
let's talk about Tron. Tron wasn't on my list as far as deeply significant, simply because it didn't. Plug
It wasn't
any-
deeply significant.
It wasn't deeply significant.
It was
It's an
technologically
amazing movie
significant.
because of the technology.
well, also, I mean, it was showing what the possibilities were inside of a computer. Yeah, at the time it was kind of dumb in how they did it, but I mean, if you take the concept of the computer and apply it towards, well, I really still am a big fan of Tron Legacy just because I thought it was I mean, that's a soundtrack I listen to over and over.
Oh my
Shannon.
gosh!
But the concept of what is a computer program, are they real, all that stuff, I thought it was really cool at the time. And practical effects or CGI effects and what they did for things.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful movie.
Very stunning for some of it.
Yeah.
Some of the philosophical elements that they expand on in the sequel are, and it breaks my heart that it did as poorly as it did, because some of the philosophical elements that they touch on in that movie are huge. Again, huge nerds, huge, massive nerds.
Would have been better if they'd actually done AI, like.
They moved past AI into digital creations, artificial life.
No, I mean AI in the real world, not just AI in the computers that didn't interact with. Because then, Ex Machina. Then you get some deep philosophical,
Oh
crap.
my god.
Yeah.
You want to believe it or not?
movie is-
No, it's nowhere on my list.
It's not on mine either, but if we're talking about movies that make you think about human machine relations.
The number of articles that came out about how horrible an idea artificial intelligence was as a result of this movie. Not just frizzy-haired doctors, in buried nuclear physics labs. Bill Gates, Stephen Hawking, Neil deGrasse Tyson, the number of people that immediately, loudly, vehemently spoke up, either in praise or decrying AI because of that movie. It certainly made a splash online. It wasn't personally significant to me, but the impact that it made was just
That movie
ridiculous.
was on a level of fucked up that you really weren't sure, because by the end of the movie, you're not really sure how things were going to play out.
Well, between that and Westworld, it's just
yeah.
like this. We really should. We need to think about this whole thing, whether we want to go down this road.
You love it because attention for a second, Google's like, oh yeah, we'll just go ahead and program a button to cause it to distract. Yeah, that's going to be the first thing it codes around.
Yeah, that's the first thing. Is no shutdown here.
So Tron back,
Tron, Ex Machina, moving things forward. Deep philosophical conversations about what you do in Grand Theft Auto 5. Really? Is that what I... Oh, God, that is my legacy.
Movies that move the world on for me. I have to bring up the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring. And there are some people that are going to say Harry Potter about this. And I will grant you that Harry Potter got to the world 1 month before the Lord of the Rings did in 2001.
Oh, I thought you meant the animated one.
No. Long live Bassin Rankin, by the way, and The Hobbit was amazing. Go watch it. But the Lord of the Rings, again, for as ostracized as the nerdlings were when late 70s, early 80s, being in school, growing up, nerds playing Dungeons and Dragons, the Lord of the Rings, when the Fellowship of the Ring came out, not only grandfather Tolkien was, the godfather of swords and sorcery fantasy books. So not only did they do it, but they did it well enough that it's now like an international institution. Regardless of the treatment that you felt like he gave the books, it made it really, really okay for swords and sorcery and fantasy and that kind of a thing to be a lot more mainstream. Yes, Harry Potter did it for the younger generations, and it hurts my soul because I feel like that's such weak tea compared to higher fan. I'm sorry.
Why you gotta hate on Harry Potter? I mean, honestly, I think the one thing that always drew me to it was you read the books, but how they envisioned the movies to just, you saw the characters as you kind of saw them in your head in the books. I mean, everybody would agree, oh wow, that was exactly like I mean, nobody really got into the whole debate of, well, they should have been this color, they should have been this, or maybe there were people who
No, they
did.
do that now. So
They do that now.
Yeah.
There was a really, really big thing. I so didn't want to end up talking about Harry Potter, but here we are.
Well, then we don't have to.
No, you talk about not being
not on
about
my
color
list,
and this
so
and that and the other. There was a flap. I think it was when they were adapting, or when the Cursed Child
Yeah, it's like the
came
cast.
out. There was the business of a black girl getting cast
Black Hermione.
to play Hermione, and everybody, oh no, Hermione's white, and Hermione's a white girl, and if I remember correctly, Rowling actually came out and said, actually, in the descriptions for her in the book, it never once says that she's a Caucasoid. So
She
fuck
could
off.
be whatever.
Yeah, which, regardless of how I feel about J.K. Rowling, was an amazing statement to make.
She stands by a lot of that too. Even what happened with the last Fantastic Beasts with Nagini being, Asian and all this stuff.
A human, in
Yeah,
the first place.
she has her source material down because it's from her head, and has always been pretty good about keeping track of a lot of those things. Although not everybody is always happy about it,
But in terms of making fantasy more accessible,
yeah.
be it high fantasy or young adult fantasy, those two franchises, the Lord of the Rings movies and the Harry Potter movies, from those two movies, so many other young adult.
Well, you can't leave out Lady Hawk. So.
Actually,
You could, actually. But
yes. In fact, Matthew Broderick, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Rutger Hauer.
Yeah, and Rutger Hauer.
Fantastic cast.
Yeah.
Not great soundtrack. For a fantasy
Electro
movie.
synth,
Yeah. Vangelis.
Blah, 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 blah. Movies that I've seen that I don't regret seeing, but that I will never ever watch again. Movies that I've only watched once.
Schindler's List.
Schindler's List is absolutely.
We've talked about that a
would
few
we-
times.
Why would we ever watch Schindler's List again?
The Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, and Fury.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Okay, I've seen those other two more than once, but not Schindler's List.
Yeah. If you've seen those movies, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen those movies, maybe wait until the sun is shining outside and you've got some good friends.
Really good day, no alcohol anywhere in sight.
Oh, God. And then go watch them. Great. I mean, God, I can't. If you're of a suitable age, not for children in any capacity whatsoever, but if you're of a suitable age, they tell stories about a time that nobody my age or younger will ever be able to appreciate because of the world that we live in now. But they're stories that need to be remembered, and it's a world that needs to be remembered.
Same category. Did you ever see the HBO special Conspiracy?
No.
It's about the Wannsee Conference.
Oh.
Again, Kenneth Branagh,
Oh.
Clive Owen.
Ooh.
Not Clive Owen. The guy who played in The King's Speech.
Colin Firth?
Colin Firth. The guy who played Bates in Downton Abbey. Fantastic cast. All-star, all English actors playing the Nazi high command who comes together at Wannsee to basically plan out the Holocaust. The movie lasts almost exactly as long as the conference itself. It's like 90 minutes in and out, done, and it is chilling. It's if you want to watch it, let me know, and we'll talk about it afterwards because I don't want to watch it again for those same reasons.
Gosh, you really make me want to.
It's that same vein, and it's just yeah. You could do a double feature of that and Schindler's List, and then cut yourself.
No doubt. What of it? Anything else not on that list? Any movies that you saw once that you're glad you saw, but ain't no way you're ever watching them again?
Only thing that hits that realm is horror, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake that they did.
Are you glad you watched that?
No,
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of movies that I've watched once and never wanted to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I
wish I had
3/4 of the way through that movie and still have not finished it to this day, which my OCD hates.
See, I'm
But
okay
the
with that.
scene where all of a sudden they're picking up a person and putting them on a meat hook.
Yeah.
Oh.
That right there was a scene where my empathic side just like, nope, nope.
Yeah, it's getting away from the core category, but you could have movies that you walked out of,
Yeah.
or stopped watching. And I've got a couple of those, but I don't
Yeah.
really have a deep personal connection because I wish I'd never seen them. That's the opposite of a deep personal connection. It's more like a scab.
So let's flip that a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk about something happy. Your turn.
Come on, no. Movies that we can talk about that you would watch over and over again and clap like a stupid child, because that's one of our favorite things.
Oh.
my one, Big Trouble in Little China.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
right there.
Absolutely.
Old Jack Burton says,
Jack
yeah,
Burton.
absolutely.
That's me. Yes.
That was still probably one of my favorite. Just the cast they had in that film, how wild it got throughout the entire thing. Yes,
You cannot
you can do things you can never do. You can see things that you cannot see.
That's right.
Yeah,
A very
I mean,
positive attitude.
Yeah, I mean, all of those things were just such a great movie that you love just to watch.
Movies I could watch over and over again. There's so many.
Yeah,
I mean, because that's what I do.
yeah.
I mean, that's on there. God, the original Indiana Jones is on there. I could watch that anytime.
Raiders is such a good film.
Raiders is such a good film. Just such a great film.
I'm not saying it because it's obvious.
Well, you was the Martian, so you could watch that anytime.
And I do.
And you do.
Oh, yeah, no, I couldn't. I mean, it's a good movie, but I and again, now back to movie soundtracks. Hans Zimmer. It's not like it's an Academy Award-winning movie or anything like that. Is it? I don't think it is. I have to assume that it's not.
It won something, didn't it? Didn't it
It
win
won a
special
lot.
effects?
Matt
or
Damon
something?
yet again lost in space.
Yeah, we spent more money rescuing that.
But and you get it. I know you do.
Oh, yeah.
You're my Martian brother in arms. At any given point in time, it's like tinfoil for me. Oh, the Martian's on. I mean,
well, I mean, if we're gonna get to that, the classic, Animal House.
oh my
Caddyshack.
gosh, climbing speed.
Caddyshack's, the Ghostbusters, the.
Oh my gosh. It's especially in
Maybe
light
not
of
so much the second one, but the first one's on. I'll stop and watch it.
more googling homework for you again. YouTube. Inception, when it came out, they had a wonderful movie trailer that was set to a song called "The Mind Heist."
Yeah.
How do we
And-
get from Ghostbusters to Inception?
I promise we'll
Link
get
this
there.
up here.
Somebody basically remade a modern day trailer for Ghostbusters to this music called "The Mind Heist." Get on YouTube, go and look up Ghostbusters Inception trailer. We'll watch it when we're done here. It's absolutely.
We'll just put it on the
incredible.
film here. That's the
Yeah,
thing
I'll
about podcast. You can link this stuff.
If I can, I'll put a link down there if I think of it, if I can be bothered. God, other movies that I could just watch without thinking about it.
The Princess Bride.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
How did we miss that one?
Woof.
Speaking of great soundtracks,
But Angie, when we started talking about this, my list was originally much longer.
excuse me.
But and The Princess Bride is a fantastic movie. No arguments there at all. But it's beloved, but it's not. There's no deep significance to me other than the fact that it's just a great movie. I've got a bunch of stuff still on my list here that I'm certain we won't have time for. That struck deep chords.
And this is my personal theory. The Princess Bride is one of two movies ever made that is both a chick flick and a guy flick.
What's the other one?
You don't know?
No.
Top Gun.
How is that a chick? Okay.
yeah.
I was
What?
about to say that, and I stopped because the whole scene riding up on the motorcycle plus the
Naked volleyball.
Scene. Yeah,
and-
okay, I got you.
Chick film, guy film. Princess Bride, Top Gun. I had never been able to find a third.
Yeah, I'll give you that. If you can think of one.
If you can think of one,
that's
put
what
it in the comments.
Yeah, that's what the comments button is for. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Those are the only two that, ask any guy. They love that film. You ask any guy, it's like, that film rocks. It's like, okay, what do we got?
Into the danger zone. Getting a little bit serious and a little bit more grown up for a moment. Going back to the list of movies that I have for things that kind of moved it on and made it a little bit better. I don't know about moved on, but Wonder Woman came out, and if you're not aware of the social impact that movie had for women in particular, you're probably not watching this because you're probably a remarkably well-developed Luddite. However, I put to you that a movie that came out after Wonder Woman easily out Wonder Woman in terms of being really, really good to women and portraying them as strong and intelligent and on their own without rubbing it in your face.
Deadpool 2?
Hi, you cute.
No? Okay.
That's not where I was going for. I was
Okay, just checking.
Black Panther. The Dora Milaje, however you say it. Wonder Woman was a fantastic movie. There was nothing wrong with it. A fantastic beacon for women. But in terms of all of the things that Wonder Woman was trying to say, the Dora Milaje did it better, and they did it without rubbing your face in it. There were several points when I watched Black Panther, like the 5 times that I went and saw it in the theaters, where every single time Okoye would come on screen, the only thing I could think was, that's a bad, bad woman.
Yep.
That's a bad, bad woman.
And it carried over to the Infinity War,
Oh,
When
yeah.
Hulk trips, she's just like,
Yeah, with a look.
mediocre.
And that movie's full of bad women.
Oh yeah, you're gonna die alone. She's not alone. And then all of a sudden you have Black Widow and Okoye who are across from
Whatever her face was.
Yeah, I mean,
Scarlet Witch, Elizabeth Olsen. Yeah,
don't get me started on Elizabeth Olsen. It's
we're not going to.
Why wasn't she done here?
And then on the other end of that spectrum, arguably the smartest character in the MCU right now is Teeny Tiny Shuri.
Oh my God.
So
What are those?
No.
why do you have your toes out in my lap? I'm not even going to try to do the accent.
Dude, Tumblr has such great headcanon for that, where all of a sudden Peter Parker and Shuri have gotten together just to screw with everybody else, because they are the Wonder Twins of the MCU.
Just to make brilliant babies?
Oh my God, they don't even date. They're just science nerds.
Oh, okay.
But they pointed out that the reason why the Black Panther will jump on the wall whenever Shuri goes, "Oh, the floor is lava," is because literally when she was probably growing up, she probably turned the floor into lava.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, but it's just that's the kind of thing that those two characters right there are just beautifully made to go together.
But all of that happened in that movie without rubbing your face in it once.
Yeah.
They just went out and did a thing. And I don't know how much of that was Kevin Feige and the Marvel people. I don't know how much of that was Brian Coogler, was the director for Black Panther. I'm gonna lay a significant amount of that in Brian Coogler's lap.
I would as well.
Because of another entry that I have on this list, which is Creed.
Yeah.
Creed was a good movie, and I'm going to preface this statement by saying that I'm fully aware of the fact that I'm a white dude. Creed was.
Don't look at him like that.
Okay.
Creed was a fantastic movie from the standpoint that I really, really felt that Michael B. Jordan was allowed to be genuine and black without being a stereotypical thug.
In both movies.
In both movies. And again, completely and totally realize that I'm a white dude here. There is
It's okay, so is
such a perception. There's such a perception. Hollywood does horrible things to people of color in general. The fact that now 2 of those movies have come out, and Michael B. Jordan in particular is allowed to be such a genuine example of just another guy. Mm-hmm. Who happens to be black and happens to represent his culture without also being portrayed as a useless, do-nothing thug.
Right.
Incredible. They were great movies. They were great movies anyway, just from an entertainment value. But that aspect of it, to be serious and at least a little bit woke for a moment, they're just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Wakanda.
Forever.
Oh,
indeed.
Wakanda, yes.
Wakanda.
Wakanda.
While we're talking, this isn't exactly a movie that I've only watched once. I've watched it a couple times, but while we're talking about Sylvester Stallone, have either of you two seen First Blood all the way through?
Yes.
The last 15 minutes of that movie, in terms of crap that people that are my age and younger will never ever understand. The meltdown that John Rambo has in the gas station. The last 15 minutes of that movie, if you've never seen it before,
They really never should have made the superhero ones after that.
yeah, the way that movie ended is just gut wrenching. Again, nobody who's my age or younger will probably ever understand that, and to a certain extent, I don't know whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah, the last 15-30 minutes of that movie are incredibly powerful. What else you got on your list?
What else do I got on my list? All right, this is going to be a little cliche,
Okay.
but I've got a reason for it. Casablanca.
Oh God, you don't need a reason for Casablanca.
Well, I mean, Casablanca was the movie that made me realize and recognize,
The trench coats are badass.
You wanted to be a private detective?
no, that great movies have been made before color. You know, the great movies of the past are great movies because of the scripts, the direction, the acting. You know, you don't need special effects. You didn't need color. You barely needed sound. You know, all you needed was a couple of props, and all of a sudden you're in Africa, even though, you know, they never left California. You know, Bogey, Bergman, Paul Henry, don't really care about him, but, you know, Sidney Greenstreet, Peter, it's just, they didn't even know they were making a good movie, and it's on the list of greatest of all times.
Absolutely.
You know, and that, you know, you watch that movie, you realize they made great movies back then. You know, then you get into other old great movies. You get into Philadelphia Story. You get into Bringing Up Baby. You get into the whole Hepburn, Katharine Hepburn. You get Audrey Hepburn. You know, and all the way down the line, you just realize that they made so many great movies back then, and just not everything old is crap.
Completely and totally. If we're going to talk about that, an excellent, completely unintentional on your part, I have no doubt, but an excellent segue into that, in term, another movie deeply significant to me, and this is a relatively, is Murder on the Orient Express. I think that they could have made that movie in black and white. Oh yeah, that man's face marmot was legendary. I think they could have made that movie in black and white and it wouldn't have done a goddamn thing to it. Not to be, fuck it. In this day and age of special effects and graphic violence and graphic language and graphic nudity and graphic. Not that I think there's absolutely a place for that in certain places.
Computer graphic.
Murder on the Orient Express, holy crap. Largely due to the amazing cast that they had.
Yeah.
Derek Jacobi is in everything.
Yeah.
Not just because my dearly departed aunt would have just eaten that up with a spoon. Definitely wanted to make sure that all of her nieces and nephews understood world culture and understood the bigness of the world and our smallness in it. She would have loved that movie. And the story and the people that they have telling it. That's another one of those movies that I will sit down and watch whenever anybody wants to sit down and watch it. It doesn't matter where it is in the movie. Admittedly, a huge piece of that is how amazing Kenneth Branagh is in it, and the lip ferret that he is sporting.
Double-decker lip ferret, no less.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, in terms of old things aren't necessarily crap. Obviously, it was a rehash of the original, and amazing movie. What of it?
Speaking of things that are older but necessarily not.
We already talked about the Transformers.
Yeah, I know. Willow. I'm sorry. To this day, it's still one of those movies I will watch whenever, wherever, and just love. Val Kilmer being that crazy Mad
Mardigan
running around. I mean, that people getting turned into pigs, the wizardry, the acorns that could turn people into stone, the whatever the trolls or whatever they were, that turned into the multi-headed dragon that breathes fire, and that was just one of those movies that as a kid, even as an adult, I love watching just for what it represented at the time. And fantasy films, maybe they were a little bit more in the 80s and the 90s than they are today sometimes, because you don't see as many movies with that kind of a cast moving through so many different areas through, I would say, a fairly well done story. I mean, it wasn't bad, it wasn't amazing.
Willow, and I'm glad you brought that up. Willow falls into, again, a little bit of a tangent here. We talked once about naming the podcast Wild Tangent. I said you weren't allowed to do that because it was
That's what I was going to call mine.
Because it was a better name than mine.
Yeah.
Willow is one of those movies that falls firmly into the stable of those invincible classic movies of the time, like Labyrinth and The Dark Crystal.
Oh, God, yeah.
Willow fits
Are we putting Willow on that level? I would put it down with Legend.
The Legend is another one of those movies.
You can't touch Legend either, man. Come on, I mean...
Yeah, but I'm not putting it up there with Labyrinth. I'm not putting it up there with Dark Crystal. They don't hang with Henson. They're definitely B team.
In terms of class.
How'd you start?
In terms
you
of
can have Val Kilmer. I'll take David Bowie. He's going to whoop Matt Mardigan's ass.
If you take David Bowie, you're going to have to take David Bowie's codpiece with it.
That's all he needs.
It walked onto the screen like 3 seconds before he did.
He's going to scare Val Kilmer off the screen.
You didn't notice it so much when you were younger, but the first time I watched that as an adult, I was like, oh, shit.
I saw it in the theater again, not 6 months ago. They had it back in the theater so that we could watch it. And they had Jim Henson's The Storyteller up front for the first 30 minutes. Yeah, you're right. The codpiece is scary as hell. And
in 3D!
I had a friend of mine who'd never seen the movie before. I said, look, you're going to have to understand one thing. You're going to look at his crotch a lot. And just know you're not the only one doing it.
You can't avoid it. It had magnets in it.
The Pale White Duke had game. I'll give him that. Holy moly!
God,
no, I mean just in movies that I remember fondly in that clump of things. Willow.
Yeah.
Is absolutely one of those films that beloved childhood for me anyway. Fantastic film. Warwick Davis gone on to do so much stuff.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm saying it's not Labyrinth good.
But you know what? Labyrinth did not have as much action, fun, and humor. It had some. I'm not going to say it didn't.
Had more nightmares.
Yeah.
When the little fuckers that pulled their heads off and danced around in a circle, they're like, oh God, drug use was alive and well in the 80s. If we're talking about that,
drug use in the 80s.
Drug use in the 80s,
so now we're back to Robert Downey Jr.
No. I got a perfect one for that too. But go ahead.
Return to Oz.
Never saw it.
Oh man. Obviously, the sequel to The Wizard of Oz, the movie kicks off. Dorothy Gale has come back home from her trip across the rainbow and has tried to tell people about her adventure, and they've committed her to a mental institution.
So, Alice. American Mickey's Alice.
No. American Mickey's Alice takes a decidedly darker twist.
I have a feeling click.
But... if you neither of you two have seen it, it's dark and it's nightmare inducing.
Why would I want to go see it now?
Because it's a great flick. It really, really is.
Sorry, you said drugs of the 80s, and I have one that I had to check it real quick. It's not the 80s, but drugs definitely play a part of this. The Professional with Jean Reno.
Oh, and a very young Natalie Portman.
They never used drugs in that one. It was just milk.
And coked out of his mind.
Oh, him. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, my
Gary
God.
Yeah. He used drugs.
Oh, my God. How did he not in that film? Because, I mean, honestly, you watch him as just that villainous character.
Stansfield.
Oh, my God. Coked out of his mind.
We never talked about him when we were talking about Psychos. Movie Psychos.
technically he's not really a psycho. He was.
Well, we were talking about menacing characters. We had
Okay, yeah, you would definitely count in that realm.
we had Spader. We had
Menacing bad
Ford.
people. Oh yeah, Ford from Westworld.
yeah,
Okay.
Sir.
Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, we had Anthony Hopkins. We had Spader. We had Malkovich. We had just people that could just be flat out scary.
Yeah.
And we didn't think about Oldman, but we should have. We should
Yeah.
have put him on that list. Anyway, let's reel this fish.
Last but I guess certainly not least, I have so many other movies on this list, but just to kind of bring it back in. Titan AE.
Yes. Such a great cast.
There were a
Good
lot of animated movies that my whole family watched when we were younger. But something, again, my eyes are crap, and they were even more crap when I was a kid. But something about this specific stable of movies, things like The Secret of Nim and The Land Before Time, and An American Tale, things like that. They all decent enough movies, but visually they were all very, very easy for me to watch. Come to find out, the reason why they were all very easy for me to watch is because the animation was all being overseen, if not personally done, by a gentleman named Don Bluth.
Oh, yeah.
And Titan AE was Don Bluth's last animated project.
I didn't know that.
And I, again, this is another one of those, not nearly enough press.
Oh, yeah.
In the theater. Not nearly enough press. Incredible cast. Matt Damon, Drew Barrymore, Bill Pullman, John Leguizamo. Who voiced Stith? Why can't Janine Garofalo was the voice of Stith. Ice.
Nathan Lane was in there.
One of the Ices.
He was.
Ice.
Cube.
Cube. I think Cube.
They have
Cube?
Ron Perlman, Alex Lynn.
Oh my
Jim
God! Yeah,
Brewer.
Ronnie Perlman. Oh,
Yeah, Jim Cummings.
tons of good names, and yet really such an underplayed movie. But completely putting aside how good the movie was, I have a deep remembrance of Don Bluth, and that was his last project, and the movie was absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. You got anything else on your list?
Nope, my list is complete.
His list is spent. What of it, bruv?
See, we talk about all these films that have, I don't know, great little bits of significance. They had a lot of fun. One movie that I will always remember and remember playing around as kids with was the movie Aliens. And it's not.
You watched that as a kid?
Yes, I did. I did.
Your parents didn't like you very much.
Actually, we got to see it on TV, on like TBS or whatever first.
Oh, the extended version.
Before they even had that. And I'd never actually seen the movie Alien. Always wanted to watch it, but my parents were like, "Oh my God, it's too scary. You can't watch that." Well, Aliens was the movie that took more of the lighthearted. I mean, James Cameron, he had fun just basically blowing things up in that movie, but it had a really fun cast, and they did less of a I'm going to make you nightmare yourself at night.
No, it was an action-adventure movie
Yeah.
more than a horror film. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was one movie that, I mean, honestly, the power loader scene, all of the things they had with them
iconic.
running around, I mean, they were iconic scenes that to this day I will always remember as a kid, and playing around with my friends, and that was just a fond memory for me. Later on when I got to watch the movie Alien, I'm like, it's like, you don't see him very often. Where the hell is this? But the suspense was just like Jaws, where they really played up. You never see it, you never know where it is, and it's just taking people left and right and random scenes.
Yeah.
It's so telling that you brought that up. My brother just let his two older kids watch Alien. 16-year-old and 14-year-old watch Alien for the first time. But their horror is the suspense genre pretty much doesn't exist anymore for
It really doesn't.
not in the classical sense of certainly that the first Alien embodied.
I don't know. Did you watch Get Out?
That was suspense of a different format, though. I mean, like monster films, when it comes down to having a creature, everybody expects the flash of the monster, the CGI, something that builds up, something you see. And not segueing, I just watched the movie Split the other night because we're going to go see Glass coming up. And they do a lot of build up towards the monster, but you don't really see it. That's something that just is a lost form anymore.
Yeah.
That people will they immediately throw it out there so you can see the bad guy.
Well, they don't have the it's the attention span thing. You've got to have jump scare. You can't have slow suspense anymore.
But the kids were, dare I say it, disappointed. Because we had, it's scary and it's edge of your seat and this and that and the other.
Make them watch the original thing.
Oh,
Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh, yes, please.
There's a line.
Something that will traumatize you as you
Yeah.
try to figure out whether
We'll never
the
pet a
dog's gonna
dog
eat you.
again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a line. There really is.
But they weren't really impressed with the suspense.
They weren't impressed with Alien. Huh?
Yeah, no, they really
Kids these
weren't.
days,
Yeah, kids these days.
Their YouTubes and their Instagrams. If it was Instamonster, they'd pay attention.
Last thing for talking about here, and then we really need to reel this in. A movie that certainly was by no means a Academy Award winner, but when I saw it when I was younger, it absolutely blew the back of my head out. I want to go to space. Was Armageddon?
Oh, I thought you were going to say Deadpool too.
No.
It wasn't in space.
Well, that's until he said space. I thought he was going for
Mercs in space.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, Armageddon. When I walked out of the theater, I went to go see it with a buddy of mine. We walked out of the theater like, we need to go to space. Space.
So basically,
Space.
he had the last Starfighter. You had Armageddon.
They completely different cupboards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted to go to space to the last Starfighter. You wanted to go to space with
so you
Armageddon.
could ride a nuke between your legs and
Oh, yeah.
a meteor came towards Earth.
Get off the nuclear warhead. Again, Bruce Willis, Michael Clark Duncan, Steve Buscemi, Willie Fichtner, Ben Affleck.
Michael Douglas? No, who was his?
Clark Duncan.
Michael Clark Duncan.
Michael Clark Duncan, yeah.
Liv Tyler.
Liv Tyler, and Owen Wilson.
Oh, yeah, Owen Wilson was in there, too.
And I can't remember the name of, it's not William Forsythe. I can't remember the name of the guy who played Chick. But it's such an absolutely incredible
I know who you're
cast.
talking
And,
about.
he played in,
Oh, shit, Billy Bob Thornton was in there. Forgot
of
about
course
that.
he
Got in 60 Seconds too. I can't remember the.
Oh, dude, Peter Stormare. I forgot
Oh
about
gosh,
him.
Peter Stormare, American components, Russian components, Chernobyl.
Still to this day, the scene where all of a sudden, I know how to fix this. Move, please. Move, please.
Oh yeah, I that's another one of those movies that I'll sit down and watch.
Will Patton.
Will Patton. But yeah, when I saw it at the time when I was younger, I was just like, I have to go to space now. We both came out of the theater my buddy and I just slack-jawed about the spectacle that we had seen. It was I have to do it. I have to go to space now. Fantastic movie. Really, really was. There's clearly more content to be discussed here, and when we're done chewing the fat after the camera stops rolling, we'll probably have to talk about doing this again for TV series, for TV shows.
God damn it.
Yeah. It's going to be another long night. Blow up the comments. We probably missed some things. Opinions being what
Oh, we
they
missed
are.
a lot of things. We didn't say word one about Pixar. So
But yeah, if you hung in till the end for this thing, congratulations. I'm
good on you.
now going to
Yeah.
reward you with the ending. Welcome back to A Defense of the Awkward Moment.
You mean Samson and the two black balls?
We've officially have our first awkward moment of the podcast.
Welcome to 2019, ladies and gentlemen.